Thorns of the Waking Court. Chapter 14. One Must Fall. The death of Elias was a sundering blow, a gaping wound in Calla's soul, but it also became her crucible. Her grief solidified into an unshakable resolve, her rage a searing edge to her rapidly expanding power. The grove's bond, once a mysterious hum she struggled to interpret, now pulsed with conscious intent through her veins, a living conduit, a part of her very being. She felt its hunger, its ancient, unyielding need for balance, and its profound sorrow for the lives consumed by the curse. Lives like Elias's, like her mother's. Elias's sacrifice had not been in vain. It had ignited the final, unquenchable spark within her. The court, already reeling, descended into open chaos. The Chancellor, recognizing the uncontrollable nature of Calla's unleashed magic and witnessing the tangible fear it inspired, moved to consolidate his power, attempting to openly seize the throne from the rapidly fading heiress. The veiled threats and whispered allegiances that had characterized Thorncourt's politics gave way to direct confrontations, armed skirmishes in hidden passages, and open defiance in the grand hall. The illusion of unity, threadbare since the hollow ball, disintegrated entirely. Calla, no longer hiding or seeking guidance, walked through Thorncourt as a living embodiment of the grove. The violet veins on her skin thrummed with raw power, glowing faintly even in the dim twilight. Her eyes, once gray, now burned with a luminous green, holding the ancient knowing of the roots, reflecting the deep pulse of the earth itself. She had no mask. She needed none. Her face, etched with grief and newfound resolve, was a stark, unyielding truth in a court built on lies. Her presence alone seemed to strip away the glamour from the masked courtiers, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. The final confrontation came swiftly, inevitably, in the grand hall, now half reclaimed by the wild, glowing tendrils of the grove that burst through the obsidian floor and walls. Aerith, weak but defiant, stood before his shattered throne, barely supported by his last few loyalists, a handful of ancient fae and weary knights who had witnessed centuries of the curse's slow consumption. The Chancellor, surrounded by his own zealous faction, a menacing phalanx of heavily armored guards and ambitious courtiers, moved to formally depose him, a scroll of ancient, blood-stained law clutched in his hand, his eyes burning with triumphant malice. "The king's reign is over," the Chancellor's voice boomed, amplified by his dark, oppressive magic, echoing through the cavernous hall. He was unmasked now, his face a terrifying tableau of ruthless ambition, his eyes cold and calculating, devoid of any warmth or empathy. His connection to the grove has withered to nothing. The curse consumes him. Thorncourt demands a new ruler, one strong enough to bind the grove to its true purpose, to serve the court's will. I will restore order. I will bring true power to this realm. Order born of tyranny. Calla's voice, amplified by the grove itself, cut through the hall, clear and resonant, like the strike of an ancient bell. She strode forward, a lyra, her root scars glowing in solidarity, at her side. Calla's footsteps seemed to shake the very foundations of the hall, each step a declaration. She was no longer just speaking. The grove spoke through her, its ancient voice vibrating with her righteous fury. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed, his gaze flicking to Calla's raw, untamed power, a flicker of apprehension mixed with furious determination. "You are a wild beast, girl, untamed, unfit to lead. Your magic is a destructive force, a chaotic storm, not a stabilizing one. You will tear this realm apart." He gestured, and his guards moved, forming a threatening phalanx. My magic is the grove's truth, Calla retorted, her voice rising in intensity, her hand instinctively going to her wrist, where the sigil blazed with an inner sun. And the truth is, you twisted its purpose. You starved it, corrupted it, chained it for your own selfish power. You sought to control life, and instead you brought only decay. Her words resonated with the deepest pulse of the grove, making the very air vibrate. As Calla spoke, the very roots of the hall thrummed with her conviction, responding to her call. The root warden, now fully awakened, rose from its corner with a low groan, its amber core glowing fiercely, its immense bark-covered form turning slowly, deliberately, towards the Chancellor, a silent, monstrous judgment. It was a manifestation of the grove's ancient wrath. It was then that Riven made his move, a final, desperate gamble. He stepped out from the Chancellor's inner circle, a triumphant, almost predatory smile on his face, though his eyes betrayed a desperate calculation. "Calla," he purred, his voice dripping with false concern, attempting to exert his waning charm. "Don't you see? He speaks the truth. Your power is chaos. It consumes, it destroys. Join me, and we can reign together. Bind the grove as it should be bound, to serve us. A new order, free of the old, broken kings." He extended a hand, a gesture of partnership, but his gaze was already measuring her power, trying to determine if he could truly master it. Calla met his gaze, no longer surprised by his betrayal, but seeing the depth of his ambition, the inherent selfishness that defined him. "You played your hand, Riven," she said, her voice laced with chilling finality, "and you chose the wrong side. You always do." Riven's smile wavered, a fleeting expression of shock and fear crossing his face. "I chose survival," he hissed, his composure cracking. "No," Alira interjected, her voice surprisingly strong and clear, cutting through the tension. She stepped forward, her own root scars glowing, her stance defiant. "You chose a cage, for yourself and for all of us. You chose to be a puppet of power, rather than embrace true freedom." The Chancellor, seeing his opportunity in the brief distraction, moved with a sudden, unexpected burst of speed. He unleashed a torrent of dark magic, a concentrated bolt of blighted energy, not at Calla, but at the weakened Aerith, intending to strike the final fatal blow and eliminate his rival once and for all. His face was a mask of cold fury, but Calla was faster. A surge of pure, raw, violet light erupted from her, meeting the Chancellor's attack head-on. The clash echoed through the hall, a roar of primal energy that shook the very ground beneath their feet. The illusion shattered, the masks of deceit stripped away by the sheer force of their clashing wills. The Chancellor's true nature, his centuries of manipulation, his monstrous cruelty, were exposed in the brutal brilliance of the magical confrontation, glaring for all to see. The grove roared through Calla, channeling its ancient fury, its collective pain, its unyielding will to live. The roots in the hall buckled, rising and twisting, not in chaos, but with a focused, deliberate intent, obeying Calla's unspoken command. They lashed out, binding the Chancellor's faction, pinning them against the crumbling walls, their limbs entangled in thick, glowing vines. The Chancellor's power, fueled for so long by the grove's suffering, began to falter as Calla tapped into its true essence, its life-giving force. He shrieked, a sound of pure terror, his face contorting in fear as the roots closed in on him, stripping away his stolen magic, revealing him as a hollow, grasping tyrant. He was losing control. The power he had manipulated for so long was turning against him, consuming him in its own twisted way. Riven, seeing the tide turn decisively against the Chancellor, hesitated for a fatal moment. His ambition, once his greatest strength, became his downfall, blinding him to the true nature of power. He saw not opportunity, but utter, inevitable destruction. As the Chancellor was overcome, Riven made a desperate break, attempting to vanish into the swirling shadows of the damaged hall, a cowardly escape. But Calla's gaze, now imbued with the grove's true sight, caught him. She extended a hand, and a single swift root lashed out, not to harm, but to trip him. He stumbled, falling headlong into a gaping fissure that had opened in the obsidian floor beneath his feet. The gap closed behind him with a sickening crunch, swallowing him whole into the dark, churning depths of the earth. Whether he was imprisoned in the earth's depths, consumed by the grove he had sought to control, or vanished into some unknown, inescapable realm, Calla did not know. And she found, to her surprise, that she did not care. His betrayal had come full circle, leaving him lost to his own ambition, a victim of his own insatiable greed. Alira, her face grim but resolute, moved to Calla's side, her presence a silent testament to their unbreakable bond. She had seen the truth, witnessed the full extent of the Chancellor's malice, and the bitter cost of Riven's selfishness. Her past as a victim was shed, replaced by a fierce, quiet strength. She now stood as an ally, her own root scars glowing in silent defiance, a beacon of loyalty in a world of shifting allegiances. The Chancellor, battered and broken, lay pinned by the grove's vengeful roots, his dark magic extinguished, reduced to a pathetic, screaming figure. The silence that followed was profound, heavy with the weight of change, a silence that resonated through every corner of Thorncourt. Even the drifting lanterns seemed to hold their breath. The king was saved, the usurper defeated, and the grove's true champion had risen. The chains were broken. End of chapter 14.